Palestine Town Council meeting. We're going to start it out with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First thing on the agenda is a roll call of the members that are present. Bill?
Present.
Chris? Here. Clint? Here. Angie? Not here, and Brandy's not here. So we have 3 members present. Angie said she was going to zoom in. I don't know if she will, but we have Brian Bosma zoomed in on our meeting, or what? In our meeting, and can you hear us, Brian?
Yes, sir, I can.
Thank you. Okay, the first thing on our agenda is our claim approval, and approval of claims number 24983 to 25056.
I'll make a motion that we approve the claims as presented.
Second that. Okay, is there any discussion on those claims? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, those. Now, the next thing on the agenda is we allow 3 minutes for public comments for anything, any agenda item. So if you want to talk about any agenda item, you have 3 minutes. Anybody? Okay. Next, we have the adoption of the minutes, and I think I looked at the minutes, and there wasn't enough people here to adopt anything, was it?
Well, we
were here last time.
Right, but we actually technically can approve the minutes if we want to.
Yeah, if you've reviewed them, we've drafted.
Even if the people that were at the meetings aren't here?
If you've had an opportunity to review the minutes.
Okay, we've reviewed them twice.
Make a motion.
Okay, so we've got the minutes of the March 3rd meeting that need to be approved. Do I hear a motion to approve them?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any discussion on those minutes? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we also have the minutes from the March 15th Town Council meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve them?
Make a motion to approve the March 15th minute meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, is there any discussion on those minutes? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
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 Abstain. I didn't look in the, check into those.
Fails.
So that one does, yeah, that one we would put on another meeting.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, the first thing under old business is an engagement letter from Taft Stennis that we had a discussion at the last meeting about trying to figure out what was going on with our the COVID, all that stuff, and at the last meeting we passed a motion for Angie to find us somebody, and now we have this is the person that she engaged, and now we would have to vote on their engagement letter, which calls out all their fees and what they would do, everything like that. So, do I have a motion on this?
What is exactly the motion for, to go over
To,
with it?
yes, to engage these lawyers to look at this Bakovic paperwork and give us a synopsis of what it says.
So,
I'll make a motion to discuss it.
well, so make a motion to
We
approve
can
it.
move it to approve it.
I'll second the
Okay.
motion, and that's, now that doesn't mean you have to
I know,
vote for it ultimately.
That's what I'm saying.
But
That's
now
what-
it's open for discussion.
Okay, we'll open that for discussion now.
Okay, as I saw the video of the March 15th meeting, I was in Texas, so I wasn't able to be here, and I was actually boarding a plane, or I would have participated by Zoom. When I got to that portion of the meeting, I was absolutely mortified by the concept that we would hire an independent attorney to review, and let me just state for the record, at a range between $295 to $850 per hour, over 100 of documents on a document that was not prepared by the person who reviewed it. And if the bond documents were prepared by Brian Bosma, who is a very well-known, very reputable bond counsel in the state of Indiana, who was hired by the town to represent us to prepare the bond documents. Now, anybody that knows anything at all, and I see some first-time attendees this evening, welcome, glad you're here. But this bond project has been going on just shy of a year. It has been discussed, debated, run through the ground, approved at every level. The only thing waiting is a final approval, which means there have been either 5 or 6 prior approvals before tonight. These documents were ready to go in September, October, November, December. Then we had one board member or council member who just stopped coming to meetings for almost 3 months, purposely to avoid voting on the bond project. Then she appeared at one meeting and abstained. The next meeting, she abstained again, which frustrated me. There can be no action. And the reason for abstaining was she claimed she needed more time. She needed questions answered. She needed more information. That information was provided during the year that she wasn't here, the meetings that she wasn't here. So the concept of asking an attorney to review documents that were prepared by our attorney, I can only guess as a practicing attorney an estimate, a conservative estimate of about $20,000 to $25,000 just to get an opinion, to answer questions to a person who's going to vote no anyways. What are we doing? So, originally the bond was going to be $5 million and include a regional lift station. Angie stated at one of the meetings that she attended that her dispute, her objection was the amount of the bond. So in between meetings, she negotiated directly with the developer to scale down the size of the bond. And now the final documents are $3.9 million, 3.9250 or whatever. It's went from 5 to 3.9 million. If there were questions at the last meeting regarding changes to the project, it's my understanding every other component of the apartment project remained unchanged. Density, amenities, materials, everything remained the same. One change. resulted in a lowering of the bond request from 5 million to 3.9, and that was changing the size and the capacity of a lift station. Because originally the town requested a regional lift station, which meant the developer of the apartment project was going to be required to oversize the capacity at their expense to promote further development and providing services in the future to other areas. Again, my understanding is the lift station was downsized. That resulted in about over $1 million in reduction to the bond and the project cost. So now we're at a $3.9 million request. Nothing else changed. So at the last meeting, you only have questions about two things. Are there changes in the project itself we don't understand? At the last meeting, when the request to hire an independent attorney was made, Brandy was here. She's the one that negotiated the changes. If there were any changes or any questions about changes in the project, she's the only one other than the developer who's here this evening, and he's here to answer those questions, as is our bond counsel, as is our financial advisor. To answer the questions, she could have answered them, but instead she voted in favor of wasting taxpayer money. So then your only other line of questions are the documents, and why on earth would you hire an attorney that didn't prepare them to $20,000 to $25,000 worth of waste of money to get an opinion that you can get for free from your own attorney who drafted them? I'm glad we passed the motion to discuss this issue, but it is the most asinine concept that I can imagine. And again, anybody on this council that doesn't understand the documents or has questions, call the man who drafted them, and he's here. We can answer those questions right now. So for those reasons, I'm against hiring an independent law firm of Angie Farnow's choosing to waste taxpayer money to answer questions that don't need to be answered. Show up to meetings and vote. Vote yes or no. If you have questions you're not comfortable with, vote no. Don't show up and abstain to frustrate a final vote. This developer has waited almost a full year. And in my opinion, it is so completely embarrassing to the council, to the community, and I don't care whether you're for or against the apartment project. No developer should be strung along as long as this has. It's time for a vote.
Thank you, Bill.
Clinton, I mean, can you, since I was not here for the last meeting, can you tell me the reasons that they wanted to do this?
Well,
They continue to.
the reason is because these documents are so complicated. And, yes, we were given all the documents, but the documents change, and I know they said there's no changes, but there is changes. And the financial document, I'm not even sure about it. We were given the document from the trust firm, and it doesn't even include all the paperwork of the document. There's one place in it where it says, I'm not going to start getting into that right now, but there's one place into it that says, look at 4.2, and when you look at the document, there's no place to look at 4.2. So that was just one question that I have right off the bat. So that's why because we had confusion about the documents, that's why we did it.
Clint, would you like to ask those questions to Brian?
Well, I mean, I'm not right now, because we're doing this right now. I want
Okay.
to take a vote on it right now,
I mean, I'm just trying to.
unless somebody else has something to say.
I'm just trying to understand, I mean, to me, I understand it, but I just wonder if it's worth the $25,000. Is that what the?
Well, I don't know what the number is. I mean,
That's
we have a schedule from them, so, I don't know what the number would be.
And-
It's
and-
always high when you hire a lawyer.
and I failed to point out one other concern that I had. At the last meeting, and what month did the very first presentation, was that May, June, April? Okay, so in April of 2022, when the project was first presented to the town council, from that date until March 15th, consistently, every single vote that had anything to do with the apartment project, one member of the town council, Brandy Baston, abstained from every single vote because she works for the hospital. The hospital owned the land that has been sold to the developer for this project. There is a statute that defines a conflict of interest. That's if you personally have a pecuniary interest in the project, you can't vote on it. Doesn't mean your employer has a financial interest, but Brandy has abstained for that reason on every single vote, except for one. On March 15th, for some reason, she voted to hire an independent law firm to answer questions. I wish she were here so that I could ask her why she voted on that, when she hasn't voted at any other time on this project. And if that means she's going to vote on the project going forward, then great. Maybe we can get off the stalemate that we've been in for almost a year. So, I was very concerned shocked that for the first time in this entire project, in a year, 12 months, she voted in favor of that motion.
I just can't see like at the good conscience really trying to spend up to $25,000 for questions we can have the guy right here answer. Why don't we go to this part first instead of trying to get somebody? I'm not putting it together why we would want to
Well,
spend more
because
money.
if this passes, none of that other stuff could be considered tonight. If it doesn't pass, yes, we can consider the other stuff.
I'll make a motion that we,
It's already been.
There's a motion.
oh, okay, I'm sorry, we have to vote, but
Yeah,
make sure
if
we
there's no
understand.
other,
We're voting to approve.
Yeah,
Yeah. There's no other comments. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay,
Doesn't pass.
I'll make a new motion.
It does, is
Well,
it continued or
pass.
what?
It
Doesn't
didn't
pass.
It didn't pass, but can we take a
I
vote
thought
to
it
deny
needed 3
it?
votes to,
It needs 3 votes to pass. It did not pass. So it doesn't automatically continue. If you decide to put it on
doesn't
the
need
agenda
3?
again, you.
It doesn't need 3 votes not to pass?
So,
Robert's
so,
Rules of Order doesn't contemplate negative motions.
so Doug, if I make a motion, to deny it, and there are 3 votes in favor of that motion, is it dead? Well,
Another
of course, it
motion
could still be brought up at a later, okay, then I won't make that motion.
I mean,
Thank
I
you.
thought the whole point of denying that was so we could ask the questions that we are basically going to pay $25,000 to get answered right here. And wasn't that the thought? I mean, that's why
Well, I
I
don't know,
was
do you,
this.
do you have any answers for him, Chris?
Have any answers?
Or any questions for him?
Well, like I said,
Well, let's wait till-
unfortunately, I was here last time, so I'm not sure what the problem was to begin with. I know those things you talked about, the 4.2, you want to ask him about the, what the 4.2 or
Chris,
what?
if we get to the next point,
All right.
because, but that motion
I just
didn't
think
pass.
the money spent.
Okay, that motion did pass.
Happy to answer any questions that you may have now or at any time.
Well, and the next item would be, I think, the proper time.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is ordinance number 040523A, authorizing bonds, 2023, Bakovic bond issue revision 4.4.23.
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 040523A. And again, same thing, if we have a motion that's seconded, then we can discuss it.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's open for discussion.
Clint, do you have any questions about the bond documents you'd like to ask Brian Bosma?
I might.
John, I can't really hear you now. Your audio kind of
Do I need to pull it up closer? Is it that better, Brian?
That might help, yes, I could
Okay.
maybe hear something.
Clint, I know Brian sent a summary of the bond document and the
Right.
changes. Would it be appropriate, would you be okay if Brian went over a high-level summary of the deal at this point?
Yeah, you can. I guess one of the questions I had was on page 2 of the document. It says, "This is the same resolution as was adopted October 5th, 2022.
I'm sorry, there's something up with the microphone. Did you ask about the reference to the prior ordinance?
Yes.
Yes. I included the recital, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, rather, because it's such a long period of time had passed since the adoption of the original ordinance on October 5. That's not customary. I can't recall one that's gone 6 months from first adoption to final adoption. So I put a recital clause in the ordinance specifically stating that this is final adoption of resolution 1005-22D, which was the first reading of this ordinance and the first passage by the council.
Let me
Does that
get,
answer your question, sir?
to find the document here and I'll see what my question was.
And Brian, while Clint's looking at that, am I correct that this is a matter that's been approved by the Economic Development Commission, the Planning Commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals, and the Town Council one time?
And the redevelopment commission, I don't know that I heard you say that.
And the redevelopment commission?
Redevelopment commission approved it twice, a second time after a public hearing. Economic Development Commission approved the documents that are included in the transaction after a public hearing. Plan Commission approved, its approval was that the amended plan adopted by the RDC comports with the development plans for the city, or town rather, and the council also approved that order, and then the council adopted the ordinance before you tonight on first reading in October. In addition, the council adopted back in June of last year kind of a preliminary resolution to move forward with the transaction.
So that's 7 prior approvals.
And I'm not sure what the reference to section 4.2 is.
Oh, it's in the,
Tell me what document.
it's
that's
in the trust agreement,
Real quick.
the trust agreement. Trust agreement.
Agreement.
Trust agreement?
Bill, could you say that just a little louder than the audio is just like, didn't you?
The trust agreement?
Oh, the trust indenture, sure.
Yeah.
Let me pull that up. It's a very lengthy document. The only thing that trust indenture does is secure the payment of the bonds to the bond purchaser, which will be the developer. And it is with a bank trustee, and it just provides for the payment of the tax increment for the Copic area approved by the RDC, established by the RDC, to the trustees so that bond payments can be made. I'm going to search 4.2. It's the bond fund. It is mentioned 6 times in the trust indenture. In the definitions of bond fund refers to the bond fund established by section 4.2. The bond fund itself, section 4.2, contains 2 references to it. All the other references are in section 4.2, so I don't see any missing cross-reference for 4.2 refers to the bond fund.
Well, I don't even
which
have
is-
4.2.
I'm sorry,
Don't have 4.2.
I'm sorry,
He said he doesn't,
I did something about that.
Okay.
he said he doesn't have 4.2.
Yeah. Well, I've got it, but I need, okay, it says, any pledge TIF revenues remaining following payment of each bond payment amount shall be applied in accordance with section 4.2 of the indenture.
Correct. That's the bond fund, so if there is remaining tax increment over the 75% of tax increment that's pledged, if there's more than pays the principal and interest in any given 6-month period, it is deposited in the bond fund, which allows the bonds to be paid off early, which is the hope, so that the 25% of tax increment that is retained by the RDC turns into 100% of the tax increment at an earlier date.
Well, that was my question, would the excess amount be used to pay down the bond or put into an account, a different account?
It's used to pay down the bond. It's put in the bond fund account created in the indenture, which is used only for payments on the bond.
And Brian, just to confirm, because I want to make sure the exact number, it started out at 5 million, and now the request is $3,925,000 is the TIF increment financing that would be provided through the town. Is that correct?
That is the amount of the bond now was reduced to 3.925. I didn't have the conversation. I was told that Angie found that to be an acceptable number by Bus Crown. So that's all I know. And as you indicated, Bill, it's quite a reach because they receive about 900,000 less construction proceeds with that lower amount of bond amount. That's why the regional lift station was changed to a lift station that only served the project itself.
Well, Angie's not here
So
to,
that was acceptable by the town manager.
Angie's not here to talk about it, but my conversation with her, now I'm not even going to say because she's not here to talk about it, so I'm not going to say anything. But anyway, my thing on that is what difference is if it's a $3.925 million or a $5 million, if the reason it was reduced to $3.925 million was to get rid of over $1 million lift station. I mean, I don't see where that puts us in any better financial position.
I mean, to me,
I
that,
believe it was $1 million lift station. I don't know.
Well, that's what they presented it to us as.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that seems like it, I'm not understanding why we would not, if they're willing to foot the bill for that, why we make it to where now they're not going to, so if we want to grow later on, we have to foot that extra $1 million bill. I'm not isn't that what, the way that sounds? Why would we want to do that when they're going to pay for it?
Well,
I mean, it sounds like they're trying to give us a gift and we're saying, nope, we want to pay for it ourselves. I don't want to pay for that. I don't understand the thought process here.
I don't either.
The idea was to get 3 votes affirmative for the entire program.
I mean, is that really what we're looking at? If we do what we're talking about now we foot the bill instead of them? Is that what I mean, am I wrong here?
No, I think you're exactly right.
Then
If and when a regional lift station would ever be required, if ever, then we would have to pay for it. That is correct.
That's
And-
ridiculous.
And here's my
Good
concern.
thinking there.
We're talking about a $62 million project that is first class, that looks phenomenal. You know, we had a couple people talk earlier this evening at a plan commission meeting. I can't cite exactly what month it was, but I've only been on the town council, this is my 4th year. I have never seen a meeting where 9 people spoke in favor of this project. Because there's no question, our community needs apartments. We need something for people who aren't yet to the point where they can afford to buy a house. And they're tired of living in their parents' basement. So there needs to be a transition. So I don't even want to go back to April of '22 and talk about the merits of why this is such a desirable project. But where we're at is, if this $62 million apartment project doesn't move forward, there's a likelihood that you end up with a Dollar General. That's what's before us tonight. Or something certainly less desirable than a $62 million investment in our community that will bring 300 individuals or families to our community. And again, we've been frustrated by abstentions, absentees. I would recommend that we finally approve this tonight and be done with it.
I mean, I have a problem approving it when that's just gonna leave us $1 million bill in a couple of years. I don't understand why. I wanna talk to the people who think this is a good idea and try to explain why. I don't understand.
It was my understanding that those were the concessions, that at that bond amount, Angie could stomach it and would vote for it. She isn't here to vote for it.
May I suggest if there's other legal questions that we address those?
Yeah, let's get
and then
Brian
we have
off
Buzz
front.
Crone here that can address
All right.
financial issues.
All right.
Yeah, because we are taking up a lot. And one last point. Right now, if this bond project goes through with a $3.925 million TIF increment financing to the developer on a $62 million project, the attorney fees that are probably close to $90,000 are included in that bond and paid by the developer. If this doesn't pass, the taxpayers pay that bill. And you can thank absentees and abstentions.
If I could just add, Mr. Niemeyer, we capped our fees at $75,000 for bond counsel, but that was not my choice. That was a quote given by my partner, Ted Nolan. I told him it should be 105. We have capped at 75. We're going to stick with 75 for bond counsel fees. We have, because it's stretched out, our work is stretched out since July of last year, significantly more than that. So it's honestly a bargain for the town. But again, as you said, it needs to close for all that to happen.
Right, otherwise,
All closing documents are completed in draft form. Everything here is ready to close 31 days after the second reading adoption of the council ordinance.
Chris, I might answer, on the regional lift station, you know,
well,
when we,
hey, why don't we see if there's any more questions for Brian, just so, because that way we can get him off.
No, I don't have any more questions right now.
Okay, I got some. I'm Jason DeRose, I'm in the community.
No, it's not time for public comments yet.
I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thank you, Brian.
I can stay on here if you want me to stay on through public comment. Apologize that I'm not there. I actually got mixed. I had foot surgery, so it's a bit of a chore for me to get anywhere. I have a chauffeur with my wife. But then I got mixed signals. I was intending to be there this evening. I signals that this wasn't going to keep me on the agenda ultimately, so I apologize for not being present. Would you like me to hold until after public comment?
Yeah, you can stick around, Brian. It'd be great.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
It'd be great, thank you. Is there any more comments, town council comments on ordinance number 040523A? We have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 040523A. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? No. So that'll have to be continued till we get more people to vote on it.
if they show up or if they vote.
Next item on agenda is the financing agreement. 2023 Bakovic bond issue, revision 3.3.23.
Actually, Clint, I think all of that was one bundle.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, we don't have to, because if one didn't pass, don't even waste any more time considering anything else.
Okay, well,
Only the ordinance needs to be voted upon.
okay. Well, it wasn't a favor or non-favorable, so it'll have to be continued to the next meeting. Right, Doug?
It does not pass. You'll have to, if you want to put it on the next agenda, I imagine they'll have to run new numbers to make sure that all the financials work out. Is that correct, Buzz?
Yeah, I mean, every time the closing date changes, the numbers change a little bit, but. it's-
Cost of issuance goes up, the interest rates get less favorable in this market, so they'll have to run new numbers and see if that's still feasible.
So we need to continue it to the next meeting, or,
Yes.
okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Beth?
can I just make a
Mhm.
comment? I think it was, bring this up, it was my understanding that it was determined that the regional lift station wasn't really needed at this time, and that was why that was eliminated, is that?
The original lift stations came up when there was an ask. We thought, well, first thing we do, we'd want front, and we'd say, hey, if we want to continue going west, regional lift station would be ideal. There's been no engineering on it, but if you look at that property, there's about 52 acres to the west. There's a little bit to the south, but the elevations of that property, and I've talked to a couple people about it, it's probably not the best place for a regional lift station. And continuing going west, we're going to butt up right up against Hill Creek utilities, which makes it an issue as well. So, to me,
That was kind of an important distinction of why that got taken out of the project. I don't think that they originally asked to take it out, but it was just determined that that would be the way to scale it.
It was
Get
scaled
it
back.
back.
And I would go to Chris, any new development going to the west, just like we've asked them, we can ask them to go ahead and either put another lift station or tie in or upgrade that lift station at that point. So depending on the development.
I think the other significant issue is the 25-year life of assuming that this does go forward at some point, the total TIF revenues over 25 years are projected to be about $15.5 million. And we ran the debt payments two different ways. One was assuming that it would stretch out over the full 25 years, which would have yielded about $8.6 million of excess TIF for the town after the bonds are paid. And if we use all the 75% to prepay the bonds, and assuming that everything comes in, in the same timing as what we're estimating, it would be almost $10 million that the town would realize if they used all the 75% of the TIF to make prepayments. We wouldn't want to set up the payment schedule too aggressively, but it's conceivable it could be paid off in 15 years instead of 25 years.
And this is a 3.925
Yes.
tip, okay.
Yeah, I did send, I don't know if anybody got to that. I thought I sent it out
Yeah, I got it right here,
to
Beth.
the entire council and the working group working on the bond documents.
Well, the one you have for the accelerated payoff was just the question that I asked Brian about what would the excess money be, and it would be to pay that. So that would be on the accelerated,
That's the way it would come in, assuming that all the timing of everything
right.
clicks.
Yeah, I know, it's just projection, but,
It'd just be, the first couple of years might be iffy years, depending on when things are completed. It's gotta be done by January 1st to hit the assessment date for the next year's TIF distribution. But, so even though we would be pledging up to 75%, on the accelerated payoff, it would only about 35% of the TIF money would actually go to pay off the bonds, and the town would realize about 65% of that TIF money, assuming that everything clicks with the same timing. So I just want to make those points.
Hey, Buzz, when I looked at your projection here, the first few years, it shows the interest on the bond, and it doesn't, show any,
Yeah, we've got $890,000 of the bond proceeds. The bond proceeds, well, the total TIF bond is $3,925,000. Out of that, you'd have to take $890,000 off to cover what we call capitalized interest in the first 3 to 4 years of the life of the bond issue. So there wouldn't be any increment coming in then, so we actually allocate a portion of the bond issue to actually cover those capitalized interest. You can do that up to 5 years.
and that's what that yellow
That's
stuff,
the yellow.
yellow part of it, yeah.
That would be accrued interest on the TIF bonds, and, there's no increment coming in those early years until, it starts collecting in about 2026, assuming, it got started and finished within a certain period of time. At the $5 million level, I think it came out about 50-50, but at 3.9, it conceivably could be 35-65 for the town, if it's all used to prepay bonds early, which, according to Brian Bosmer, that's how that fund should be used.
Thank you.
Just as a point of order, since the previous motion failed, if those numbers change your mind at all, Clint, you can make a motion to reconsider the motion that just failed.
No, I was
Otherwise-
just trying to get some explanation for the numbers. Thank you, Buzz.
Jim, so one more point with that lift station, you say not doing the regional one, just a smaller scale down one. If we wanted to continue to try and go west, we'd have to get another developer to pay for the lift.
Very possible, yeah.
Or we'd have to pony up or something, or how would that work?
You wouldn't have to. It's just you wouldn't approve enough development. You would use that as leverage. I mean, we've asked them to put in their lift station, because they're accommodating, just like we asked Beaver to put in theirs for that project.
Okay.
Next item on the agenda is department reports. Bob?
Council, I have no new business tonight.
Jim? Steve?
Well, I got one little item, and I know it's gonna start their 88 project, April 17th. And every program in town is gonna be redone.
For what, the third time?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. What else you got, Steve? At what point will they start paving through town on 52, do you know?
This project is an NDOT project, it's under one contract, but there's several different projects, like the bridge in Morristown, the roundabout at State Road 9. Right now, they're doing patching on 52 to the worst section of the road. Sometime after the 88 curb ramps are done, the patching and the other projects, the mill and repave is gonna be the last project.
Thanks, Steve. What you got for us, Yvonne?
Not a whole lot. Kenny and I went to another
I think.
So you've got, it's easier access to all of the attachments. Yes?
Yes. Yes, we got them.
I think that's all we have.
Agendas will be put out on Tuesday mornings before the meeting now.
And please, if you have anything to add to the agenda, go through Clint and have him let me know before Monday if possible. Shoot me an email if I, finish that agenda faster, better when we have everything and not after we publish it.
More efficient.
Okay, next item on agenda is public comments, and anybody can give me public comments. You have 5 minutes to give your comment. Do you want to be first?
Sure. Hi, I'm
Yeah, I need,
Lewis.
yeah, your name and address.
4506 West Easy Street, and, down the street 500,
And what's your name?
Jason B. Lois. I guess this is my first meeting I've been to. I'm a wrestling coach here at New Pal, been part of the program for about 20 years now. I used to be a good speaker, but I haven't spoken in front of people in a long time. I'm just kidding. Being a part of New Pal for the last 20 years, I never really got into this. I never came and be involved. So something spoke to me this few days ago and said, hey, go be a part of this. I'm a part of a lot of different things. I'm with the ISWA, Indiana State Wrestling Association. I'm a women's director there, and I do all the national teams there. I'm a part of a job lead man on my company, or not my company, but for 3G Engineering. And anyways, I'm not gonna get into all that in my history and everything. I see that it seems like when I'm reading, and, with things I see in the news, and that this seems to be the biggest item, I think, for over a year now, right? Read a lot about the expense, $62 million, that's a giant figure, right? And when somebody's putting in that much money and then they're, needing $5 million or whatever the need or whatever the bond is, for an apartment complex. Now, I was an apartment kid growing up on the west side of Indianapolis. So, there's the stigma that comes with apartments, I think, and whether it's a lower end or a low class people or whatever it is, you know what I mean? And I was titled with that my entire life growing up. I've since moved on and got over that. I live in a nice house right down the road. And I think that it's kind of it's not fair to title people like that or to give them, to judge or whatever. And I'm not sure that that's the case, but it would seem as though, and from what I've seen in town, it seems to be, we're afraid of change, and I think to move forward with anything, you have to accept change. And I've been reading, it's a high-end apartment complex. It's not like it's some sort of down the street, we're gonna throw up some boards and good luck, you get to, you pay $200 a month and you can live here and the state pays half of it. It's you know what I mean? I'm fairly certain that that's not the place, the kind of place that it's gonna be, right? And so I mean, with that being said, you're not gonna have, the single parent mothers that are moving there from two divorced parents or two divorced husbands with 5 different kids living on welfare there, right? That was not my mother brought me up. She was single family, but she had 2 jobs, and I was an apartment kid, right? So I'm trying to get away from that feeling, and this gives me that feeling that we're stigmatizing that this is how we're labeling it. And high end to me means that, right? I mean, it would seem as though when I see and think about New Pal, I think that the whole reason that we moved to this community almost 20 years ago is because of the schools. Okay, it was because of the establishment of the program and to where I see my kids, and I grew up out of that, being that apartment kid, and I'm providing this for my kids. Now, a high-end apartment complex, I couldn't even touch that when I was little. You know what I mean, high-end, are you kidding me? You know, I was barely able to get dinner on a night because mom was doing that, whatever. But high-end to me says new pal, says class, commitment, character. You know, it says that those words high-end, right? And that's what we would look for in something like this. It seems to me that the developers kind of bent over for a while just to say, we want this to happen, we're going to drop a little bit, and we're going to provide this for you. With the growing interest rates and everything coming in, I don't even know how the heck you could do something like that, you know what I mean? My house has went from 280 when I bought it to, you know, almost 5 now, and in a matter of a year or two, you know, and I'm like, what? I want to sell, right? Not really, but it makes you want to get rid of that. But I don't even know how you could still say, this is all we need, when you probably need a lot more. So it's just fascinating to me to see that and to see this dynamic. You know, I've read the minutes for the past year or so, and this is the main thing. There's not even new business that seemed to me that we're interested in a lot of change, and change is good. If you embrace change, you're going to move forward. If you don't change, you're not going to move forward. It's that simple. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comments? Dale?
Dale Wagner, 4462 South 600 West. To touch on what Jason's saying, one thing I tend to remind people of is the apartments have been approved. That was approved a long time ago. They came back and asked for the TIF. So to me, they're two different issues. It's not a matter of whether you build apartments. We already said you could build apartments. It's that you want the TIF. So it's kind of, you know, just for a little bit of clarity. The other part of it is I wonder about this new ordinance. So we went through a process where we had public hearing and all of those things. Now, I don't know what the law says. Maybe Brian knows. We can we just go back and edit what we presented to the people, to the public, and what we approved? As Bill pointed out, there's been 9 approvals of a different ordinance, not this edited version.
You can always reduce the amount, you cannot increase the amount. So the decrease from 5 to 3.925 is allowed.
So we haven't changed any other words? We've only changed
Minor
the amount?
wording changes do not change. All of the documents said that they could have minor revisions subject to the approval of the president or vice president of the council. So, but all is legal.
Thank you.
Any other public, Ron?
You know, a lot of us spend a lot of time, and we've got the best. We've got Brian, we've got Buzz Corum, and Liz, Lazar, Deb. Most qualified people in the state of Indiana we hire to help us go through this. And I'm not sure if some people just don't want to prove anything, but in all honesty, I'm really tired of it. You have questions, everybody has questions, but then next week's a new question and a new question. I beg you to vote on this stuff and move on, because as I said before, everywhere I go, people are like, what the hell is going on in New Palestine? It's an absolute shipwreck. And I'm not proud of that at all. So I want to move on. I'm tired of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Anybody else got?
Clint, may I?
Yeah.
I'll go as far to add on to Ron's, as an environment in the town hall, it's exhausting. To see the fight that has gone
Clint, if I may follow up.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Just on Ron's comment about new questions. Apologize for not being here at the last meeting. There was, as you know, we're here once a month. There was nothing on the agenda. Bakovic wasn't on the agenda. No indication that we should have known that these questions were going to come up. So we are always happy to answer questions. Brian has sent out updates every time there's an update. I don't know if Brian's gotten questions back. I emailed the whole council last week asking if there are any questions. If there are questions before the next meeting, we highly encourage you to ask us those beforehand. We are your attorneys. We are happy to answer those questions in advance and then address them again in public meeting. That's what we're here for. That's what you pay us for. So please, again, we've asked for those questions. I've talked to the staff here in City Hall all the time. They have my cell phone. You guys have our email. We're happy to answer your questions if they have them, and we'll do so at the next meeting as well.
Thanks, Doug. Next item is council comments. Bill, you got anything? Oh, you get somebody else? Jason?
My name is Jason Combs. I live at 4963 South 600 West. I am the new I'm in Sugar Creek Township trustee. I have been coming into these meetings for quite a while. This project has dragged on forever. Either it should have been voted on yes or no, in my opinion, and not, hey, I'm going to sidetrack this by not showing you up this or that. We are, when I say we, all of you, council members and myself, are elected officials. We need to be able to serve the people that elect us and give them answers one way or the other, and not just abstain or run from the job or anything else. I'm a little frustrated because there's an RDC that's in place that will actually benefit public safety, both police and fire, this project. And we can't seem to come together on a town board to get everybody to show up, to get a vote one way or the other. This is an embarrassment. Everybody that reads the newspaper, social media, this has just been a disaster. I don't know why it's like this. I'm just embarrassed, to be honest with you. Again, I'm a township trustee, I'm not on your board, but there needs to be a decision one way or the other on this.
Well, I agree. I'd like the other town council members show up and vote.
May I say something? Let me take this one step further.
Yeah.
Okay. My name's Teresa Stout. I live on Sugar Creek area, New Palestine. My sister and I own the land at 3986 that we asked tonight to be annexed. As a result of all of this that's going on with that property, we feel like that now this property will be a hindrance to our property being able to be annexed and possibly the zoning change, just because there is so much negativity going on here, and we're going to be sandwiched right into all of this other junk. And you guys are right, Ron's right. This is a joke. This is ridiculous. This is, Mr. Niemeyer, I know you from school and being there. I've driven a bus for, 25 years over there. I've lived here. We've lived here our entire life. We both 12 years at school. Our kids were 12 years. We've lived here our entire life. Mom and Dad owned that property for 35 years. We've dealt with Lloyd Jones. We've done it all. So, coming here today, you're right. We're not political people, but we came. We wanted to have our property annexed. The rest of this is going to bite us. And it's awful. It's awful. So, like he said, you guys are elected. Somebody do your job.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming and doing your job.
Right. It's a snowball. And we're going to be affected because of that.
Thank you. We'll move into town council comments. My only comment is I'd like to see the members of the town council show up and vote on this project and get it resolved one way or another. That's all I've got. Chris?
Yeah. Well, you know, you use the word embarrassment, you know, I couldn't agree more. Just sitting here listening to things, I feel like, at one point I thought maybe you guys will understand. I felt like I was in the twilight zone. I didn't understand what was going on here. I was like, where the things we're doing. I mean, look at if we would have dealt with this a while ago, if it had passed, interest rates were way lower. They're probably double now that they were. You know, we're having other people now maybe, or us, pay for any other lift station when somebody's willing to. I just can't quite figure out. I'll sit here afterwards if anybody wants to come explain to me how this is like a good idea. I feel like people are trying to give us gifts and we're saying, no, we can't do that. It's like, do we want to pay money instead of give it to? I don't understand. It just boggles my mind what's happening here. So I'm just a little frustrated like everybody else. I apologize that we look like this, but I don't know what else to do. That's all I got.
Bill, you got anything?
Just a couple things. You know, it's hard to have a conversation or a dialogue with somebody who's not here. And I'm sorry, it's not all ribbon cuttings and butterflies. We're elected to do a job. And in my opinion, to either abstain or to claim that you have a conflict of interest when you don't is shirking the responsibilities that you were elected to satisfy. Whether you're for it or against it, vote either way. But to no vote because something's controversial, in my opinion, is a complete dereliction of duty. I don't know that there's anybody, maybe the person sitting to my right, Chris, who has been villainized more than myself. Social media, you know, these basement keyboard warriors that like to say that the most crazy things, bizarre things, like Chris and I pay tithes to a God of a lesser, what was it, pay tithes to a God of lesser evil, I think is what it was. So, again, this thing is drug on so long, and there have been so many attempts to make this personal. And we talked about conflicts of interest. One council member said she refuses to vote on this project until it is determined whether I personally have a conflict of interest because I'm a member of the Redevelopment Commission. And my employer owns real estate that was activated in a TIF district, which originally might sound terrible. But what needs to be explained, and this person is well aware of, my employer did not ask for 1 penny of incentive, no benefit. The reason they wanted the property put in a TIF district is the same reason that I want this apartment project approved with the TIF district, because every municipality in this state, except for the town of New Palestine, although we have one that we do get some benefit from. Last year, I think we got $50,000 from the hospital. It will increase. But we talk about wanting sidewalks from one end of the town completely to the other end of town. I don't think a person should have to walk west of McDonald's on US 52 to get to Needlers. Silly me. How are you going to pay for those sidewalks? TIF proceeds. We're in the process, Jim's killing himself, planning and trying to coordinate the design and development and then the implementation of a new town center just west of town. TIF proceeds can finance that. If you talk to any other municipality, and it doesn't have to be big ones like Carmel, who makes billions of dollars in TIF revenues. Go to Morristown. They're proud. I've met with the town council in Morristown. They TIF everything. They don't have these reservations. They see it as a way to have infrastructure. So the benefits that can come from TIF, in my opinion, far outweigh any argument that this is corporate welfare. Why doesn't the developer just pay for 100% of it himself? How dare they ask for anything? Because that has been said in this room. And because, again, I have been attacked relentlessly about having a conflict of interest, to eliminate one more excuse for coming here and voting today, the town's attorneys have issued a formal opinion that state that, and they thoroughly analyzed the conflict of interest statutes, several of them, gone through the criteria, and they've indicated I do not have a conflict of interest. So one less excuse. And if you're afraid of controversy, resign. We'll get somebody else in here that'll vote yes or no. But to completely ignore your responsibilities, it's not acceptable. Come in here and vote, or don't come here at all. Resign. And I guess the light at the end of the tunnel, no matter how much more obstructionist tactics are deployed, come January, there will be a new town council. There will be an election, and the people in this community can vote, and we'll have a different council. And hopefully we can avoid the embarrassment that currently exists and collateral damage. Because right now, I don't know how anybody can expect to do anything in this town with this environment. And my last comment is, Saturday morning, town Easter egg hunt. Come on out.
And on a positive note.
Thanks for your opinion, Bill.
Mr. President, may I make one clarifying comment in response to Mr. Wagner's question earlier?
Okay. Can you hear?
Was that a yes?
Yes.
The question was whether the change to 3.95 was allowed. There was some sentiment expressed, whether I can't get facial expression, so I can't tell exactly what it was, but the council is not, because of the introduction tonight unsuccessfully of the 3.95 million, should a majority of the council decide that the original $5 million is correct or some number less than that, but more than 3.95, you would not be precluded in including that in the next ordinance that you consider. So, not suggesting it, just saying, so you know what your alternatives are. You could adopt it the next one if you wanted to, if the developer agreed and was willing to build a regional lift station instead of just the lift station for the project. You increase the 5 or some other number less than 5, you're not precluded from doing that. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you, Brian.
And I remembered the quote, Clint. It was that Chris and I pay tithes to a lesser God because we support the apartment complex.
Thanks. Well, I don't want to comment on that.
It's
social media, Bill. Let it go.
Well, again, it's easy for people to say things and think that, you want a reaction, I'll give it to you.
All kinds of stuff on social media.
Well, I wish Angie was here to address some of her concerns because she had some concerns and it's not my job to tell you her opinion, or I'm not even going to think about it. So just hopefully at the next meeting, we'll have a full town council and maybe we can resolve this issue.
So I actually have a question. Joe Bonds, 5928 West Country Way. Like, where is she? Like, I mean.
Well, I don't know where she is.
Well, you're voting no to move forward because she's not here, right? So, because you want to have her here, or she's not here. She doesn't have the respect to even tell the council why she's not going to show up.
I know she was supposed to be on the Zoom comment.
Actually, to be correct, she said she'd participate by Zoom and
Maybe something
and didn't.
happened.
I don't know why. But again, coming to a meeting and abstaining when you're sitting there because of you want questions answered that have been answered throughout the last year is ridiculous.
There were only 3 council members here at the last meeting, she was one of them. So sometimes y'all are here, sometimes you're not.
And I have to admit, I miss an awful lot, my job requires, and I do apologize. I try and Zoom it when I can, but it's not always possible. And you're right, 100%. I can't say anything about that.
Yeah. And Dale, I missed one meeting in the last 3 years, and it was the last one. And unfortunately, that's the one where this concept of an independent attorney opinion came up. I wish I was here, because I would have liked to hit that one head on.
Well, that didn't pass, so,
Oh, it did.
I meant today.
At the last meeting, it did.
well, yeah, but it just passed to look for one. It didn't pass to hire one.
Thank goodness.
They're a big, can't everybody has their own opinion. That's all on the agenda. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.